Concrete built the modern world. It also became the modern world's slowest, most expensive, most wasteful way to do anything. And for decades, nobody questioned it, because honestly, nobody had a better answer. Then an air conditioning manufacturer in Hunan province looked at the rubble of a magnitude 8 earthquake, watched 70,000 people die inside buildings that were supposed to protect them, and decided the entire industry had been wrong from the beginning. What came out of his factory floor did not just challenge the construction industry. It made the construction industry look like it had been running on a lie. A 10-story apartment building assembled in 28 hours and 45 minutes. A 57-story skyscraper stacked in 19 days. A 26-story residential tower erected with a crew of roughly 100 workers in just over 5 days. These are not simulations. They are not government propaganda reels. They are filmed, independently verified, structurally certified builds, standing right now, occupied right now. And, well, the rest of the world is still stuck arguing about whether the permit's cleared. The question is not whether this technology works. The question is why, with a 100 million unit global housing shortage and construction costs rising in every major economy, almost none of this has reached the people who need it most. That answer is, honestly, more uncomfortable than the technology is impressive. Zheng Yue did not set out to reinvent construction. He set out to sell air conditioning systems to Chinese factories and office towers. And, he was very good at it. Broad Group, the company he built in Changsha, became one of China's dominant central air conditioning manufacturers over the course of 2 decades. That was the business. That was the plan. Then, on May 12, 2008, a magnitude 8.0 earthquake tore through Sichuan province. In roughly 90 seconds, nearly 70,000 people were dead. Tens of thousands of reinforced concrete buildings, schools, hospitals, apartment blocks, did not hold. They came apart. Some of them pancaked. Some of them just folded inward. And the thing about reinforced concrete under seismic stress is that its failure is not gradual. It is catastrophic. The structure holds, and then it does not hold at all. Zheng Yue walked through the aftermath and asked one question that most people in his position would never have thought to ask. Why are we still building this way? Not rhetorically, literally. Why? With a century of engineering knowledge, with modern materials, science, with precision manufacturing available at industrial scale, was the construction industry still pouring wet concrete into wooden forms and waiting for it to cure? Why was the most critical infrastructure in human society, the buildings where people sleep, where children go to school, where patients recover, still being built on open sites, exposed to weather, dependent on manual labor, and rated for 50 to 100 years of useful life? He did not have answers yet, but he had a factory, an engineering team, and a supply chain that knew how to manufacture complex mechanical systems to exacting tolerances. And he pointed all of it at construction. What he developed is called broad sustainable building. The concept, on paper, is straightforward. The execution is not simple at all. Everything that goes into a building, every wall panel, every floor slab, every balcony rail, every interior partition, gets fabricated inside a 230,000 square meter factory in Changsha. Each module comes off the line in a standardized size, roughly comparable to a shipping container. Walls fold down flat for transport. Balconies fold inward. Windows are already glazed, already sealed. Electrical conduit, plumbing runs, HVAC ductwork, all pre-fitted before the module ever leaves the building. Trucks carry the finished modules to the site. Cranes lift them. Steel bolts lock them together in sequence. The building assembles like a 3-dimensional jigsaw where every piece has already been finished, fitted, and tested before it arrives. There is no pouring, no curing, no concrete mixer on site, no formwork going up, no rebar being cut, no wet weather delays because the mud on the ground is too deep for the trucks to move through. The site is not a construction zone in any traditional sense. It is an assembly zone. That distinction sounds minor. It is not. Traditional construction is a sequential, weather-dependent, labor-intensive process that must be managed differently on every single project because every site has different conditions, different subcontractors, different tolerance stacks. Broad's method moves almost all of that complexity into a controlled factory environment where it can be standardized, optimized, and repeated. The site work becomes the easy part. So the first proof of concept that most people ever saw was a time-lapse from Changsha. Broad Group set up fixed cameras, brought in 3 cranes and a ground crew, and filmed a 10-story residential apartment building going up from first module to final bolt. The foundation had been prepared in advance. The clock started when the first crane lifted the first module. It stopped at 28 hours and 45 minutes. Full building. Walls, windows, balconies, electrical runs, all of it. Done before the second sunset. The footage spread fast. Millions of views. Engineers watched it on loop. Architects shared it with skepticism. Developers watched it with something closer to quiet alarm, because if the numbers were real, the entire logic of how construction projects get financed, scheduled, and delivered was suddenly unstable. Half the industry's reaction was immediate. This changes everything. The other half's reaction was just as immediate. This is a staged demo, controlled conditions, not reproducible at real-world scale. Broad Group's response was not a press release. It was a 57-story skyscraper, mini Sky City, that is what they called it. A full mixed-use tower in Changsha, 57 stories, 204 meters tall, 800 residential apartments, office space rated for 4,000 workers, retail at the base, everything integrated. Over 90% of the structure came straight off the factory floor, pre-finished, pre-wired, pre-fitted. 1,200 workers on site, average pace, 3 floors per day. Total build time from first module to structural completion, 19 days. A conventional skyscraper at that height takes roughly 2 years under normal conditions, and the environmental gap is not marginal. Mini Sky City eliminated an estimated 15,000 truck deliveries of wet concrete, not reduced, eliminated. Then, a few years later, came Jingdu, a 26-story residential tower, 5 days, approximately 100 workers, a building taller than most downtown apartment blocks in London or Toronto, assembled by a crew that could fit on a single city bus. At that point, the conversation about whether the technology works had to stop. The conversation shifted entirely. If it works, and it demonstrably does, then why isn't it everywhere? Hold that question. Because the answer requires understanding what the technology actually is underneath the speed numbers. The steel modules. Broad Group manufacturers are not just lighter than concrete. They are engineered to a fundamentally different standard. 10 times lighter than equivalent concrete panels under comparable load conditions. 100 times stronger under lateral stress, the kind of stress that kills concrete buildings in earthquakes. Every broad structure is rated to withstand a magnitude 9 seismic event. That is not a company claim printed in a brochure. That certification comes from the China Academy of Building Research, which tested the structural system independently. The expected lifespan of the steel frame? Around 1,000 years. For reference, most modern concrete buildings are designed for 50 to 100 years of useful structural life. Some high-end builds push toward 150. 1,000 years is a different category of engineering entirely. That is the Broad Group system. It is remarkable. It is also only half of what is happening, because running in parallel, in Shanghai, a completely different company is building a completely different kind of case for the same argument. Winsun operates large-scale three-dimensional printing systems designed specifically for construction applications. Giant robotic nozzles, operating on programmable gantry systems, layer a mixture of recycled construction waste and fast-setting cement compound. One pass at a time, wall by wall, structure by structure. In one documented 24-hour production run, they printed 10 complete houses. Material consumption dropped between 30 and 60% compared to equivalent traditional builds. Labor requirements fell sharply. The global modular construction market reached approximately $95 billion in 2025. Analysts project it crosses $175 billion by 2034. Singapore has mandated modular construction methods for public housing programs. The United Kingdom government has directed billions into off-site construction initiatives. Japan and South Korea are scaling factory-built systems. What was a fringe engineering concept 15 years ago is now a line item in national infrastructure budgets. Which makes the next part of this story the one that, honestly, nobody in the industry wants to talk about directly. Because if all of that is true, if the technology works, if the safety certification is real, if the economics favor modular at scale, if governments are committing to it, then, well, why is a 100 million unit global housing shortage not only persisting, but actually growing? The answer is not technology. The answer has never been technology. Building codes across most major economies were written in a world that assumed concrete and timber. Regulatory frameworks in construction are not designed for speed. They are designed for stability, for consistency, for predictability. Modular steel construction does not fit cleanly into those frameworks. Getting modular systems approved market by market, jurisdiction by jurisdiction, is not a technical problem. It is a bureaucratic one. And bureaucratic problems do not respond to engineering breakthroughs. Then there is the labor dimension. Construction unions in the United States, the United Kingdom, and across Europe represent hundreds of thousands of workers whose skilled trades, concrete forming, rebar installation, bricklaying, site carpentry, are precisely the trades that factory-built modular construction eliminates or dramatically reduces. This is not an abstract concern. These are real workers in real communities. And then there are the developers themselves. Switching to modular is not just a technology decision. It is a supply chain reinvention, a workforce retraining program, and a financial risk. The savings are real, but they show up differently in the financial model than developers are used to seeing. This is the gap, not between what is possible and what exists. That gap has been closed. Between what exists and what is being adopted at the scale the housing crisis actually demands. Zhang Yue understood this, which is why the most ambitious project Broad Group ever proposed, a building that would have been the clearest statement yet of what the technology could actually do, was never built. The Sky City 1 project. A single tower, 838 meters tall, surpassing the Burj Khalifa by over 100 meters. Groundbreaking was scheduled. Then Chinese regulators intervened. Approvals were withheld. The project was suspended. It has not been revived. So the world's most advanced modular construction system hit a wall made not of concrete but of paper. That is where this stands. The technology exists. The proof exists. The funding exists. The policy direction exists. And yet the average construction timeline in most of the world's wealthiest cities is still measured in years, not days. Still priced in hundreds of thousands per unit. Still dependent on labor pools that are aging out faster than they are being replaced. The global housing shortage is currently estimated at 100 million units. That number is not stable. It is climbing. China built a 26-story tower in 5 days. The rest of the world is still deciding whether the modules are allowed. The question is not whether this technology changes construction. It already has. The question is who it changes it for, and how long the rest of the world is willing to wait before the answer includes them.